Should assisted dying become legal in the UK? That's what British lawmakers are debating ahead of a vote today. As the debate got underway, demonstrators opposing the idea of assisted dying started gathering outside the Parliament in London. Observers are expecting protests in support of the bill too. The contentious topic has split UK society for years, but recent polls suggest a majority of Britons now favour changing the law. The bill would allow adults who are terminally ill to get assistance in ending their own life. Advocates of assisted dying have long fought for such a law. DW's Birgit Maass met with some of them.
A painless death for those who want it. That's what these campaigners in Bath in the south of England are fighting for. They are supporting a proposed law that enables terminally ill people to be assisted to end their own lives. It's a cause close to Sophie Pandit's heart.
When my mother wanted an assisted death, even though we knew it was against the law, our morality was to support her and enable her to have a death free of suffering.
Sophie's mother, Anne, had been diagnosed with a rare brain disorder that would eventually have made her completely dependent on others. She tried to take her own life, then decided to travel to Switzerland, where assisted dying is legal. Her 3 children went with her, knowing this would be their final days and hours as a family. Sophie says their mother died before her time because she needed to be fit enough to make the journey.
We had to do it in a foreign country. If assisted dying had been legal in this country, she would have known that she could die at home in this country, she could die with her friends and family around her should she wish, and it also would have meant that she most likely would have died later on in her illness.
But some people are against changing the law. Disability rights campaigner Phil Friend is afraid that disabled people could be coerced into an assisted death.
Society sees disabled people as people who are dependent, as people who are vulnerable. And basically what that means is that they take a view that my life isn't as worth living as theirs is. So if I get really ill, it would be a kindness, wouldn't it, to let me go?
The new law proposes safeguards against such coercion. 2 doctors and a judge would need to approve the death. But this does not convince Phil. He has lived with disability and the discrimination that he says has come with it since he contracted polio at the age of 3. He feels he needed to constantly fight for his rights and does not completely trust the medical establishment.
So how are 2 doctors who don't know me supposed to assess whether I'm being coerced or not? Whether people are leaning on me to take the medication? They won't, and doctors aren't trained to look at coercion. That's a very skilled job.
Phil says the proposed law pits his autonomy and desire to live against someone else's autonomy and wish to have a pain-free death. He would rather have resources diverted into better palliative care. Sophie Pandit is convinced that it is cruel to deny people a death without suffering. A moral dilemma that UK lawmakers will have to examine very carefully.
For more on this dilemma, let's cross over to London, where DW's Birgit Maass is standing by. Birgit, she's following today's debate from outside the House of Commons. Birgit, assisted dying is a hugely controversial topic. How is it being debated in the UK Parliament?
Where I am, emotions are really running high. So behind me, you can see a lot of disability rights campaigners. They are demonstrating for MPs not to change the law, take more time, divert more resources into palliative care. However, if you just walk along a little bit further behind Parliament, opposite Big Ben, there are a lot of campaigners who want the MPs to change the law. A lot of them are motivated by having loved ones they saw them dying, often a very painful death, and they are arguing that it should be up to the individual to decide if they are terminally ill, how they want to die. And MPs are debating this also with a lot of emotion. A lot of MPs inside the House where the debate is actually now taking place, they haven't made up their mind yet because they understand both sides of the argument. So it's a very intense, emotional subject, and I think it's being debated here in the UK quite subtly.
In a report, Birgit, we heard from a disability campaigner who explained why people with disabilities might feel threatened by this bill. What kind of safeguards are in this bill to address those concerns?
So those MPs and those campaigners who have fought for a change of the law say that these safeguards will be the best in the world. So the bill in the UK is modelled after the state of Oregon. The safeguards are a lot. There's 2 independent doctors who have to say that this have to really check that the person wants to die of their free will. It's only possible for somebody who is anyway terminally ill and has a life expectancy of 6 months or less. But there will also be a High Court judge who will then check whether everything is done legally and that the process was right. However, disability rights campaigners are still worried. They are worried that the coercion is maybe more subtle, that it's not about somebody forcing you to die against your wish, but maybe people feel that they don't want to be a burden to their loved ones at the end of their lives, and that they will, in a more subtle way, be they don't want to be a burden financially, also emotionally. They don't want to see the loved ones, they don't want to see them suffer, so that they are drawn into making a decision that they would otherwise maybe not would have made.
Birgit, thank you very much. That was our correspondent, Birgit Maass, in London.